It is the notorious leader of the Yiga Clan and top banana himself, finally making his way on the battlefield at long last. It is YIG00, Kohga Leader. With a hit of Stealth, Provoke, Provoke, biped legs, and the leg ability of Trip Hazard, which passively lays random traps on the field each turn, ranging from things like Shoot Trap to Melee Trap and everything else, but the user is also capable of triggering them in trade of this. Now, as a rather unique fellow in design of himself, everyone is certainly well known of just what kind of chaos and destruction that the master of the Yiga Clan himself is able to maintain. On the battlefield of robattle, this is most certainly no exception either, with what this very zany and very true rendition of the Yiga Clan leader brings to the table. Stealth on the head part is a support-based skill that once activated basically makes him invisible and untouchable for his next cooldown and heat phase. This means that while invisible basically, unless he's already being targeted, he cannot be touched or targeted, and allows him to bypass any active shields that are in play, which allows him to attack exactly who he wants and nothing more in between. The only time you can negate this, however, is if, of course, the enemy is bringing something like Radar Sight or Radar Core or Cyber Core or something to the field that allows them to negate the stealth-based effect. Provoke on the right arm is a melee-based skill that, upon attacking the target, inflicts them with a taunt-based status, and while the enemy is considered taunted, it does prevent them from being able to target anyone else except Kohga Leader in this instance. So this kind of makes him a very solid pseudo-tank, I guess you can call it to a degree, as, much like the leader of the Yiga Clan and top banana himself, he does certainly like to keep all the attention on himself when the battle is ensuing, allowing him to basically take in blows or take in possible attacks for allies by bringing all the attention to himself on the field. Panic on the right arm is a shooting-based ailment skill that basically serves one of two ways. Upon attacking the target, it works. If you attack them in heat phase, it'll serve as Slip, basically allowing you to turn around and start their cooldown phase right where you catch them. Really, really good for turn skipping if you're able to outrun the target successfully. However, if you catch the foe in cooldown instead, it instead works as Metaforce Seal, preventing them from being able to unleash any Metaforces, or in the case of even, say, a meta-change capable bot, they are not able to transform either unless the ailment in effect is removed, serving it as kind of like a double use in this instance. Biped legs means that Kohga Leader will have relatively solid coverage across most terrains, decently well in the most diverse of leg terrain compatibility matches, and when it comes to stats across the field, as bumbling and as silly looking as Kohga Leader is, he's actually not too shabby for what he brings to the table as a mixed range fighter here. When it comes to his armor, he's packing about $48.99 for that head, about $34.99 for arm, $45.99 for the legs. Means he's packing a pretty healthy HP pool there, which means it's gonna be pretty tough taking this chunky fellow down sooner than later. With a passive leg mobility of 902, he's already starting to on a very solid foot when it comes to what he brings to the field when it comes to speed without any meta rodder or terrain bonuses, and with an impressive evade, might I add, of 1722, much like that of the Yiga Clan and pretty much any other kind of ninja that would come to mind. This means that it's going to be very difficult to land a solid hit on Kohga Leader, because he's going to be dodging or grazing very, very easily unless it's a guaranteed hit no matter what. A melee resist of 1327 means he is actually able to hold his own up close and personal remarkably well without any real drawback or penalty. And the same can be said for his shoot resist at 1109. Not too shabby, but he certainly is able to hold his own as a fairly decent all-round target, or all-round fighter, I guess you can call it. All this being said though, as a pure set score, I still do have to rate Kohga Leader a pretty middle-of-the-road kind of 6.5 out of 10. And that's not to say that his kit by itself is terrible, because all three of these are actually very solid and very powerful skills, and having a very high heat stat on both stealth and panic is very, very good, and gives him a much higher chance of outrunning a lot of targets. But the problem, though, is Trip Hazard, the leg ability, primarily for the fact that while it is potentially dangerous that he can lay pretty much any trap at random every time he completes a heat phase, this can range anything from shoot trap to melee trap, disturbance, head trap, leg trap, whatever the case may be. It can be very deadly, but The catch is also the second half of that statement, which means that while he places these traps, he himself is also susceptible to them. So that means if he lays, say, a shooting trap, comes back on his next turn, he has a chance of actually triggering it himself unless the enemy finds a way to remove it first, such as, say, with Trap Clear or the Trap Buster leg ability, which kind of shoots Kohga Leader in the foot here, meaning he's kind of playing a very heavy gambling game in terms of being able to lay the traps and expect them to work well, but also not trigger them himself and end up killing his own self off faster than the enemy can for him. As mixed parts, I do have to rate him just a little bit higher at a 7 out of 10. Even though the leg ability of Trip Hazard is kind of a detriment, if you're willing to risk it for the biscuit, the leg stats are actually pretty well rounded and fairly solid, even if they can only support one heavy part, which none of his parts are. However, with Stealth, Provoke, and Panic, you really can't ever go wrong with using any of those, and arguably out of all of these, I think Panic will probably be the most used part on him if anyone does manage to collect this model, just because of the very high heat stat and the high likelihood of being able to outrun targets and possibly turn skip them in comparison or in favor of, say, using Thunder or Freeze or Virus or Bug.